Yes. Father, with your permission, may I begin?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you, Father. Good afternoon, everyone. Here are a few general instructions before we begin. We request all the participants to log in 10 minutes ahead of the scheduled time to ensure a seamless start to the sessions. Ensure that your device is renamed with your full name and affiliation, as this will assist us in tracking your participation. E-certificates will be provided to only to the registered participants who have paid the registration fee, attended all the sessions, and submitted daily feedback forms. Completing the feedback forms shared in the end of each session is mandatory. Also, kindly refrain from sharing the Zoom link with others. Now, let us begin the session with silent. Thank you. I warmly welcome our esteemed speaker, honored guests, and all the participants to the fifth day of faculty development program entitled Navigating the Future Innovations and Strategies in Teaching and Research, organized by the Department of English, Presidency College Autonomous, Bangalore. It is my pleasure to welcome our esteemed speaker, Professor Arjun Ghosh, IIT Delhi, whose knowledge and experience will guide us through today's discussion. We welcome you, sir. I'm delighted to welcome our esteemed head of the department, Father Joshi Matthew, whose exemplary leadership and commitment to excellence continues to inspire us all. We welcome you, Father. I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Gopkumar A.V., Dean of Humanities, for his guidance in facilitating this FTP. We welcome you, sir. I also extend my warm welcome to Mr. Jerin George and Dr. Loyola Thomas, coordinators for UG and PG programs in the Department of English, respectively, for their ongoing efforts in fostering faculty development through such initiatives. Welcome, sir. Welcome, ma'am. I wholeheartedly welcome all the participants from across the nation joining us for this faculty development program. Your presence reflects a shared commitment to professional growth and excellence. We welcome you all. Now, I'm pleased to introduce our esteemed resource person for today, Professor Arjun Ghosh, an expert in digital humanities, mobilization, copyright and intellectual property, new media, and politics of performance. Previously, he served as a fellow at Indian Institute of Advanced Study in Shimla and is currently a faculty member at IIT Delhi. Professor Arjun is the author of several significant works, including A History of Jananatya Manch, Plays for the People, and from Profit, SQL's Copyright in Resistance Art, and annotated translation of Nirvana. Additionally, he is a member of the governing body of Digital Humanities Alliance for Research and Teaching Innovations. We once again extend a warm welcome to you, sir. We eagerly anticipate your insights today for the topic Computational Humanities, Counting Words, and more. I request you to take over the session, sir. Sir?
Thank you so much for inviting me and uh, for uh, for this giving me this opportunity to speak to this audience. Uh, I am going to be talking about computational humanities, and I'm going to share my screen, and the slide will become visible to you. However, I am going to also post the link to the slides in the chat uh, so that participants may follow the slides at their own pace, if that is okay, right? So, actually, computational humanities is a branch of the digital humanities, uh, and this is the way this topic I have framed is that I'm going to concentrate primarily on computational humanities. But since it is a branch of digital humanities, it's a sort of sub area. It would help to sort of give that a larger picture. This is not an introductory lecture to the digital humanities, but I will like to situate computational humanities within the larger scheme of the digital humanities. Now, the digital humanities principally is a is a field where all humanities disciplines, I imagine that today's audience is one of primarily students, faculty from or scholars in literature and some of the other humanities disciplines. So we can look at various humanities disciplines, be it literature, languages, history, sociology. They all can use some of the tools and techniques that are part largely of the digital humanities. So digital humanities primarily is the humanities inquiry and its interface with digital tools and methods. So the point, uh, without going into great detail, is something that I would like to place before you, is that the digital world is an era. The digital, any digital artifact that you may have, it is fundamentally different from non-digital forms, that is analog forms. Because if you look at any particular sort of any particular uh, digital object, uh, uh, let us say a web page, uh, and you compare it with a book, right? Uh, in a book, there is a written page, the printed page, and whatever you see on that page is exactly what there is, right? Whereas in the case of the digital artifact, whatever you see on the screen right now is not what it exactly is. Uh, mm, I think I've shared a window, so I won't be able to sort of show you exactly. But if I sort of go to another page, um, can you see my NDTV page right now? All right. If I go and uh, just give me a second. I just try to explain this to you. Actually, when one is presenting in an online environment, there are so many other windows that keep up that I am not able to. So, if you look at it, can you see the developer environment has opened up on my screen right now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And you can see these are all these codes which are there as part of this particular page. And whatever I am touching, it is sort of skipping over the entire page, right? You can see part of the page like that. So the actual content of the page is this code, which the browser is converting into what the viewer is seeing, right? So there are any digital artifact is actually multi-layered. Okay, so what I just showed you is at the level of a certain code layer that is primarily would be HTML, JavaScript, CSS type sheets, etc. Right? Uh, in other kinds of programming, there would be other kinds of, for example, these the slides that you are seeing right here are actually produced through HTML and JavaScript, right? They are not slides which is even if you prepare uh, slides in, let us say, application like PowerPoint, or if you're using Microsoft Word, whatever you're typing out is not exactly what the computer is recording. The computer is recording a very complex XML code at the back end. And that XML code is actually talking with a machine language, which is at the level of the operating system, which is ultimately converting everything into binary, that is ones and zeros, right? So a digital text is always multi-layered in its existence. We can, of course, talk about how literary texts can be multi-layered in their meanings, but that is at the level of interpretation. But digital text is multi-layered even at its existence. And this allows for a certain kind of inquiry, which was hitherto not possible in the humanities, right? Because we would primarily read books with our eyes. And so that is That is the principal difference, right? So it allows for a new set of tools, a new set of methods to come in. And what are some of these methods of inquiry? At the top level, I will just speak about some. So we can say that digital humanities is actually a big tent. Any humanities is a big tent. We say that humanities as an area, then humanities is includes so many disciplines, so many areas of inquiry within it. So within them, so it is a big term. But when we think of the digital humanities, there are various kinds of methodological distinctions, aspects of it. One is archiving and digitization. So archiving and digitization, basically you are preserving books, or the, documentary articles by digital scanning, and thereafter you can have to prepare a certain amount of metadata about the finding aids, and then you can have them in online collections. You can also go ahead and have the character reading technologies deployed so as to you know have machine readable text to allow for deep search. So all that will come under this aspect called archiving and digitalization. Now, the other is digital storytelling and electronic literature. Normally, novels or stories or even films, they begin at the beginning and end at the end. It's a continuous movement. However, with the digital, because of the hyperlink point, it is possible to tell stories where the reader chooses the path of the narrative. It's a very complex issue. I'm not talking about electronic literature today. So, but how many narrative paths are possible is also by design. Okay, that's part of the storytelling process. Then we have digital pedagogy, where students and faculty engage not only in a digital environment, but even if it is in a physical classroom environment. Normally, you would ask students to write a term paper, submit an essay, uh, maximum do a project. The project will be a file which will be submitted to the faculty. But today, in the digital space, there are so many ways in which students can actually turn in their research, the research output. And there are other digital tools which students can use to access material online and enhance their knowledge, as well as faculty can also prepare their learning materials. So these are the three aspects of which I'm not speaking about in detail. We are going to talk about computational humanities. So computational humanities, as the name suggests, is use of computational or methods. Computation in its root word means counting. Mostly it is counting of specific elements within the digital artifacts. So if there are artifacts, that's stories or novels or other documents, then one of the crucial elements that is counted are words or phrases, which can be, or sentences, any kind of, these are called tokens, right? But whatever the level of the token, we can count, all right? And through counting, we are able to locate various patterns. These are data-driven methods. Data normally, when we read books, we cannot read too many books. Even a voracious reader would not be reading more than, let us say, 100 novels in a year, maybe. But a computer can read thousands of novels within a very short period of time. But the reading by the computer is different from the reading by the human being. The computer will be reading through it and gaining a certain understanding, uh, which is fundamentally different. It is discrete understanding. It will note things as discrete in a structured form. Whereas human uh, understanding is formed usually in an unstructured. We'll talk about structuring a little bit more as we go along. And as I said, the reading that computers undertake, computational readings, these are uh, algorithmic. What is an algorithm? Algorithm is a process which is a logical steps towards reaching a certain goal, right? A series of steps. So when a computer is reading, it is reading algorithm, right? Uh, Following a set of instructions and reading, right? And through this, we can subject various kinds of digital artifacts to study. It could be text-based. It could be other kinds of cultural artifacts like photographs or audio tapes or even movies. And you have uh, historical data, right? Uh, so tons and tons of historic data, events that happened, and there are details which are associated. For example, if there has been a certain treaty, who were the participants of the treaty, where did the treaty take place, who were present, what was the text of the treaty, etc. So these could be subjected to certain kind of analysis. And typically, what happens is when we study historical data, just as I said, in the case of text, the computer can read, can actually compute very large number of texts. Similarly, when you look at historical data, it is possible to actually look at the long duration. Okay? It's not focus is usually in computational history projects are not on specific events, to look at a very large sweep, a certain look at a certain pattern, which the human eye might miss. Right? Uh, okay. So let us look at what are some of the methods in computational humanities. What are some of the factors that enable computational humanities as we go along? So actually, if you think of it, uh, the emphasis on various artifacts, etc., on in computational humanities has been intrinsically linked with the history of computing. If you know your history of computing, you would know that the early history of computing began with the information war, the intelligence war between the Germans and the Allied forces. Whereas the Germans used the Enigma machine to encrypt their the link between the headquarters and the front line. The Allied were spending a huge amount of resources to sort of crack the Enigma code. And initially, it was called mostly done, I mean, in the early 19th century, early 20th century, it was all done manually by loads and loads of, computer, mostly women who would sit and sort of look through words and look through various kinds of patterns, try out various kinds of cipher patterns to be able to crack the code. But then came Bletchley Park and the machine that was there, and that managed to crack the Enigma code, and and had a very major impact on the world. And post that, you had IBM computers, which was set up by Alan Turing, someone who was involved in Bletchley Park and enterprise. And Father Robert Busa, one of very important priests, he tried to sort of uh, look at use the IBM infrastructure to look at patterns in St. Thomas Aquinas' works. I don't want to get into detail. You can look up on this. I'm just leaving some verse. Now, you see, initially, your computing power was very limited. So, computer could not look at images or videos or audio material, which are you understand an audio file or a video file is much heavier than a text file. So initially, all kinds of computing research was text dependent. And initial computing was done through punch cards and audio tapes and all that. And they were sequential, so you couldn't randomly go to any particular place. But as non-sequential computing came, and as there was exponential growth of computing power, towards the end of the century, slowly these kind of computational powers got sort of applied to other kinds of digital analysis now. So you have audio and video, and the final point is that by the early 21st century, there was a great emphasis on cybersecurity and therefore surveillance. And there was a great degree of, even from the corporates, a great degree of surveillance systems which were put in place for the protection of intellectual property. And also, there's a large companies like Google, etc., to push their advertisements to actually undertake a lot of market research analysis. And these the tools that they used for both surveillance, online surveillance, as well as for market research and analytics, uh, are the same tools that we can also use for our research. Because they were basically reading, looking at patterns in the text, whether there is something to be flagged for the human eye. Right? So that is giving you a certain history of the very computational emphasis in the humanities and literary studies has developed. What are some of the techniques of computational research in the humanities? So, as I said, one very important aspect of looking at humanities artifacts is to look at text. So you mine the text, look for certain kinds of tokens and certain kind of patterns, and you try to analyze them. Some of the patterns, the ways in which text analysis actually takes place is one is sentiment analysis, which looks at positive or negative sentiment at the very basic within a certain range, or even look at other kinds of emotions, very, very granular kind of emotions like jealousy, anger, rage, etc. And study the pattern within text. We can, for example, figure out whether a particular character exudes a certain or emotional shifts in a particular character within the length of a novel, for example. Or if if the computer is asked to go through a certain corpus of speeches, we can see what kind of sentiments are, what kind of emotions are exuded in that piece. All right. Then there's topic modeling. You can run through a large corpus of text, and it's a very complex mathematical statistical process through which the computer figures out whether there are certain kinds of words which usually come together when certain topics are not spoken about, and thereby you can get a sense of what are some of the topics that are being spoken about in a particular in a particular text corpus or a particular large piece of text. For example, there have been projects where entire speeches of parliament, years on years, have been fed into this machine to figure out what were the major topics that were touched upon during the course of various debates and how they differed uh, from one political party to another from time to time. Right? So that kind of analysis is can be done through topic modeling. Then, through study of various kinds of patterns like parts of speech, length of sentences, use of particular conjunctions, etc., multiple indices. There is a statistical method called stylometry, where we can look at the kind of stylistic fingerprint of particular writers, right? And we can see how the a particular writer's style is different from another writer, and if uh, one of the applications could be in case of disputed authorship. So we don't know who the author is. We can actually look at the authorial style and the patterns in the authorial style of different authors and see who is the likeliest author, like who can be the likeliest author of the particular text. All right. Then there is network analysis. where we look at connections between various elements. And what you see on the screen is uh, is typically what a network graph would look like. So each of the nodes, the closer the two nodes are, the stronger they are related to each other, the closer they will be, and the bigger their emphasis, the larger will be their size. And through this, we can through a very complex statistical process called clustering, we can figure out what are the various kinds of groups in which various objects of interest are grouped together, and see which are related to each other. Okay, and thereby we can figure out whether there are particular communities or particular kind of themes which sort of become which are present within a large data set. Okay? All right. So okay, uh, and spatial analysis. We can take all the information that is available from the text. Sometimes they have location information, and we can then put it on a map and use various kind of mapping techniques to reveal the cartographic pattern of particular texts. It could be text, it could also be historical records, it could be anything, right? So, in fact, what would happen is that you will have historical text. From that, you will mine out data and then connect it to particular points on the map, and then sort of uh, and redraw that map to represent what your analysis is doing. Another interesting initiative is the text encoding initiative, where we take let us say a poem, and we can sort of, as you can see on the screen, this is a particular poem which has been richly annotated using XML code, and you can see various parts of speech have been marked into the into the text itself. So if you have a very large corpus and you are marking particular features of the text, it is very easy then to just pull out those elements, okay, to separate it out. So suppose I say, okay, give me all examples of personification within paragraphs. It will pull it out, give you the line number straight away. It's a very, very powerful digital publishing tool. In fact, this requires a lot of labor. It is an act of close reading through which this kind of text is prepared. But then it is like you take a text and you mark out with a pencil or a highlighter. This is a personification. This is apostrophe, or this is place name. This is an example of a certain rhyme scheme, etc. So whatever you are writing in the annotation, it can actually become part of the text, and the digital text, the marked up text really, and it can be used to enhance publishing capability, so the reader can go in a drop down and say that I want to list just these elements of the text, and it can be done. Uh, Cultural analytics is a very broad field where various kinds of methods are used. I will show you some examples of cultural analytics in a short while. And then, as I said, with computing power, more audio video analysis can also take place. For example, we can annotate audio files, okay, using software called Audacity, and we can actually mark out specific elements within a certain audio file. It's also possible to mark out, look at similarities between photographs uh, on the basis of color information and other feature extraction, and look at relationship between photographs. So you understand that when you do a capture, for example, it is constantly asking you to identify particular things in photographs. Computer can do that, and it can predict, okay, I have a large set of photographs. Give me just extract from me all photographs in which has a, a forest and a road, and it will pull out all of that, and then you can do other things with it. So reading of images becomes possible. Okay, so that's a broad overview um, of computational humanities. Um, I haven't, I'm not going to deal with specific aspects of each of them. I will just look at some examples of computational research from my own work. Okay, certain projects that I have undertaken. So first we look at Wikipedia and engram analysis of Wikipedia. We look at some um, examples of some pages related to historical figures, and we see how this kind of large data analysis can help in seeing something, seeing patterns which otherwise cannot be seen. When I did some work on English literature curriculum in the top universities in India to reveal certain patterns, I'll take you through that shortly. And finally, I also did some mapping of the cultural history of South Asia, looking at the historical linkages between South Asia and the world, and I shall take you through that as well. First, so we'll look at the Wikipedia project. All right. Um, Now, this is the published paper. You can read the full paper. I will take you through certain salient aspects of this work. Um, Basically, Wikipedia is one of the most widely used websites in the world. Question is whether it is reliable. I argue it is extremely reliable as most other sources are, given its wide availability. One little tip about Wikipedia is that the more the number of people who visit a particular page, the likely that it will be more its reliability quotient is much more. And the reasons for that will be shortly evident. So for an example for today's presentation, I look at the biography of Shivaji. Now you understand that Shivaji as a figure has been a figure of some interest in the recent past for various reasons. Um, so if you look at the page of Wikipedia page for Shivaji, normally we would just read the article from her. But this article is not written by one person, it is written by many people. Right? So if you look at Wikipedia articles, you see that they are readily editable, right? Anybody can just, so if I go to the Shivani page, I should be able to, use, actually the Shivaji article is right now protected, but any other um, article in Wikipedia is, you can straight away edit. You do not need to even log in to Wikipedia. And you can straight away make a change and save it, and it will be live. So if, but if you look at the history page, so you have the view history button here. And if you click on that, you get a complete list of all changes that were made by various people um, on on this particular article. And you can see there constantly changes happening, right? As of yesterday, there was a change. 25th, there was some change. This is live, right? It is happening all the time. And there's a possibility that if I want to go and I want to revert to this particular uh, version of it. Right now, this article is under the has been protected because of a certain edit code, and we can about that. Um, mm, uh, but usually, if you say that this change that a particular person has made is not correct, you can revert back, and this usually leads to certain things like edit wars. Okay, uh, wars between Wikipedia editors. Okay, and when there is a certain difference of opinion between one editor says no, this is what that paragraph should read, or other editor says no, it should look like this. Then there's a conflict, and there's a conflict resolution mechanism. First is there's a talk page where people can discuss certain. differences, right? If that doesn't work, this entire editing environment is protected by certain guidelines which are called wiki etiquettes. Okay, so basically the idea is be courteous, assume good faith, uh, you know, treat others as you want to be treated, argue facts, uh, right? And don't give your opinion. What kind of uh, thoughts can be? You can't just say anything. You have to cite some source in order to put that in. So these are all written into the Wikipedia etiquettes. And if that also doesn't work, there is a Wikipedia dispute resolution mechanism. There is a hierarchy of editors from the community. Wikipedia is publicly owned. Nobody owns it. If you go to Wikipedia, you'll find that it is shared under a Creative Commons license. Huh? The license you can see here, it is all under a Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike license. All right. So it's not owned by anybody. It is owned by all its editors and all its, which is us. All right. Uh, anyway, so there are various points of dispute that the current dispute, because of which this article has got protected and prevented from editing, is because people were insisting that you have to insert Chhatrapati in the title of Suresh, call it Chhatrapati Shivaji. But Wikipedia says that no, we don't put any titles. It's just the name, no matter what, right? So, so that's the dispute. Now, this is a long-standing dispute, and we'll come to that, right? There could be other points of dispute also. And one of another important point of dispute is that in battle in the meeting between Afzal Khan and those of you who know the history, Afzal Khan and Shivaji, who stabbed first? And that's a question mark. Now, as far as I understand, historically we cannot solve this problem because there were only two people supposed to be in the tent, Shivaji and Afzal Khan. One of them comes out alive, the other is dead. So we have no independent corroboration as to who stabbed first. And frankly, it is a pointless debate because it's a question of battle, it's a question of strategy. But that's where a lot of emphasis goes into what kind of personality, etc. So that becomes a very crucial point of discussion. Now, how do we how do we see how this Wikipedia article has developed? Now, Wikipedia at its back end provides very rich statistical information. You can see this page has been edited more than 10,000 times. It started first in 2002, and since then, in 22 years, more than 10,000 times it grew. Can we sit and read through these 10,000 versions? We can do that, right? But the computer can. And if you look at, I was telling you about the page views. So if you look at the page views, you see there's a spike on a certain day. This is a Shivaji Jayanti in February every year. More people visit that page. And if you look at my analysis, it shows that more people visit, more the people also edit. And more people are watching that page, more people are correcting that page. And therefore, it is a more reliable, right? Because it is also protected by these guidelines and etiquettes. So what did I do? I I actually used a programming software called R to extract all these. At that point of time when I did this research about 4 5 years ago, there were about 6 or 7 thousand edits, and I downloaded all the uh, there were 6 7 thousand pages of edits, and I did a frequency count. And you can see here that I can, for each particular word, I look at a station. And you can see here that in the past, in certain dates, particularly at around 2011-12, and also on a regular basis even after that, there have been that the count of the word Chhatrapati in that article has kept on fluctuating up and down. This is an evidence of an edit word, right? So when I look at the static page as of today, I do not see anything much. But I can look deep into the history of this particular uh, page, and I can figure out that this is when this dispute had occurred. And if one moment I am able to figure that out, I can actually go and compare between two versions. When I compare between the two versions, I will be able to closely read what the what the dispute was. Otherwise, it is impossible for us to actually be able to see it. So this is the project on Wikipedia. I'll just show you. Can someone tell me how much time I have?
So you have time, so you have time.
How much time did you say? Sorry.
You have 10 to 15 minutes time, so no problem.
Okay. 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 So I will look at another project, which is to study the English literature curriculum of various top universities in India. When I say top universities, I should be clear that these are top as far as the QS World Rankings at the time when this research was conducted in 2001 and 2022. Uh, and I and also the UGC NET exam. This is a published work. It is published in this recently published book, um, and you can read that piece of work. Um, and the syllabi and for the UGC NET, I looked at their question papers and saw what are the texts that are part of the questions. For the rest, I looked at syllabi files. All right. Now, what is the research workflow? So first is I acquire data, and then there is data cleaning, then there is data analysis, and finally there is data visualization. Let me uh, sort of talk about the data acquisition. Data acquisition is very simple. Go to university websites and look for the syllabus. The syllabus file is there. You download it. All right. Now, the point is these PDFs are sort of produced in any sort of way. There is no structured way. They are not the same. Some people put the author first, the text later. Some people put a colon between the author and the text. Some people will put the text first and author later. All right. In some cases, the PDFs are actually not typed PDFs. They are image PDFs. So someone just scanned it and put it up. So in such a situation, one has to. So there's a lot of data cleaning that has to happen, right? The data cleaning process is ultimately what I have to do. It's a lot of manual work, grueling manual work. I also use Wikidata query and I use R as the programming language. All right, to take you through, right, data work is fantastic for the results. Hopefully, some of the results that I will show you are eye-opening. Uh, it's a lot of work, but 99% of the work in the humanities because the data is not in any structured form. It doesn't come as neat like, census data or national survey, sample survey data, which can come neatly in a JSON file or CSV file, etc., or a spreadsheet. This doesn't come neat. So a lot of manual work is required to clean it. Ultimately, the goal is to build a spreadsheet out of it. All right. So as I was saying, there are these files are tremendously unclean. Same author can have different spellings, so you have to put them together. So what I try to create is basically a spreadsheet, as you can see on the right, particular university, the title of the paper, whether it is a core or elective, and then the name of the author, the name of the text. All right. And one had to sort of organize this. Approximately 9,000 attempts, 9,000 items. This was in the middle of COVID that I did this work. So it took me about 3 months to clean the data. All right, just maybe 30 uh, curriculum files. All right, that's the amount of time. All right, then I perform the data analysis, corroborate the names of the authors with Wikidata. Wikidata, I will hopefully talk about it in a moment. Wikidata actually uh, gives you the other information related to the identifier, which is the author. You are able to get the author's citizenship, and you're also able to get the author's uh, dates, okay, birth and death. Um, and that way you can situate an author geographically, location wise, you can situate the author in time. And so that's, and all that data is extracted and then it is merged along with the syllabus data. And that's how we finally prepare the data set. All right. Okay. And I also extracted gender information. All right. And then I did some data visualization to publish the results. All right. And the tools were used was spreadsheet and pellet. So what did it show? Here you are. The blue color shows authors belonging to United Kingdom, and this is across the UGC NET exam from 2004 to 2020. You can see that British authors continue to be mainstay of UGC NET examinations. A little bit of increase of European authors has come about in recent years, but it's, it's still quite thin, and Indian authors are minimal in the UGC note. You can explore these slides; they are available to you from the link more carefully. Now now I distinguish them between, and I look at the syllabus files, and I distinguish them between the core courses and the elective courses. And what we find is that different universities have different degrees of diversity. Certainly, there are more authors from India, uh, but and yet it is the Anglophone authors who have the major stake. And in fact, if you look at the core courses, it is the Anglophone authors who consistently sort of are more. So those certain universities are actually um, trying to increase a lot of diversity. If you just simply look at the kind of distribution that there is. Okay, now if you look at gender-wise, we find that the UGC net continues to ask questions mostly about male authors. Most syllabi are about male authors, but the UGC net is most significantly male. The most diverse in terms of gender terms is University of Mumbai, and we have given you a certain gradation, right? Uh, and if I do the chronological distribution, we find that the if we look at the student's mind space, we find that history of literature is only that of English religion or British literature. As far as UGC net is concerned, there's slightly more diverse these in the other universities put together, but the diversity is just about 200 years. Anything that before 200 years is either absent or they are uh, those of the only. All right. So this is how I have done this analysis. I will go and show you some more things. And this is a very interesting graph, and we find that there is a whole lot more. This is a network analysis. Whole lot more of the authors in the elective courses, and the overlap between core and elective is very very small. What we find is that the core syllabus are sort of emulating the UGC net examination more. Right? All the experimentation that is happening in various other kinds of writing, Dalit writing, women's writing, etc., are only relegated to the elective or principle in most universities. And we are looking at the top universities. If we do a study of the second or third ranked universities in this country, I'm sure that core basket will really grow even further. So there is, so this tells us about what kind of nationalistic is. Okay, let's just quickly go through another sort of project which was there. What is it called? Yeah, the cultural history of South Asia. Very quickly, because I think we have to end now. Again, this is work that is going to be published very shortly in this particular book as a handbook of practice. So what I do is, again, I go to Wikidata and I extract all persons of importance who have either born or died in South Asia. I pick up their date of birth, date of death, and place of birth and place of death, and I also pick their occupation. Okay, that information. Again, the similar workflow is there. So data acquisition, we use Wikidata. Now, I don't want to get into great details, but Wikidata gives data in a very semi-structured form. Is a knowledge graph. For one time, I'm not going into discussing what the RDF is. A very, very powerful data structure, which is linked data, and it gives relationships between regions. So if I know a person, where they were born, I have details of that city, I can get the GPS coordinates of that city. You understand that? So I can get various information related to somebody which is not explicitly mentioned on that person's page through the relationship, the network that is created through data. Now, having extracted it, what I do is I look at the integrity of the data. Basically, I should have all the data points, location and death, and date information for both birth and death. Occupation is optional. If the occupation is available, I can do a mapping according to occupation. All right. These are the tools that we use. Certain bit of it is manual and data and R. Okay, now we try to analyze them, and here are the results. The visualization, mostly done through R, and some of it done through Palette. So I look at migration data from people who moved from South Asia to outside South Asia. So from India, where did they go? They went to mostly to Europe. Some of them went to North America. Uh, Very few people, of course, go to South America. But if you look at South Asia to South Asia after 19, outside South Asia after 1925, we find that a large number of people go from India to Europe and North America, right? Uh, and similarly, people from other countries. I'll show you some interesting snippets. Uh, This is within South Asia. People who were born in India, died in India. Where did they move? Now, people from Bangladesh, you can see that people from Bangladesh moving to India, uh, people from India moving to Pakistan, people from Pakistan moving to India, etc. Sri Lankans don't migrate all that much. People from Myanmar, quite a lot of people move to India. All right, let me show you, and I have state-wise information also. If we look at people from various parts of the world who have come into various Indian states, which are the states which are attracting most inward migration, and that is Maharashtra. And the thing that you get is this is purely probably but Maharashtra and Delhi, and you see a lot of them have come from Pakistan. So this shows you the partition, right? People from Bangladesh move to West Bengal, and if you have time, we can look at these patterns much more closely. To show you one more interesting thing, we have the movement among states, within Indian states, and that gives us a sense of which is the most attractive place in India where people are moving. The idea is the place where a person dies is the place where they are born. Okay, that's the idea. It gives you the cultural importance of that space. I'll just show you one more thing. This is a word cloud of first names of people who moved from South Asia to the rest of the world before 1925 or born before 1925. That is still about 1947. They would have moved wherever they were. You can see this as the word cloud of the first name. The larger the size of the word means so many more names, so many more people. And post 1947, this is the word cloud. You can see the shift of people from South Asia moving to other parts. Okay, I'll just show it to you the two word clouds. Right? People were born in South Asia but died outside South Asia. And here is post 1947. All right. This is a larger map of, and this helps us identify which are the urban centers. There's a whole lot more in the research if you want to look at the paper. It helps us trace the particular urban centers to which and the movement of urban centers. For example, Kolkata was very, very prominent gatherer of migration till about the 1960s and 70s. Thereafter, Mumbai took over, and now it's mostly Hyderabad and Chennai, Bangalore. Those are the places where a lot of we just see a lot of migration. Particular, it can also be done for particular. This is a file for entertainment purpose. A couple of last points. I'll not take more than a minute. If you want to try your hand, and I'm not going to teach you this today. If you want to do some text analysis, there is a free online tool called Moyan Tools. Where you just paste your text and it will produce some analysis. Right? That I can show you. Yeah, essentially, and it will sort of immediately produce various kinds of analysis there. You can seek some help on the internet as to how to use these. And there is Palladio, of course. Palladio allows you to do the spatial mapping. So you need structured data for it. Uh, and that's where I end the talk. If you are interested in this kind of work or interested in learning more, you can get in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for insightful session on computational humanities. Your expertise and perspectives have greatly enriched our understanding on the topic. Now the session is open for Q&A, and we do have some questions in the chat box. I'll just read them out for you, sir. So one of the participants has asked if you could actually share a list of tools that beginners would find useful to work with.
Well, anybody who wants to do that, you can go to my website. And if you look at, as you can see on screen, there's each resources. It's open here. Let us say, and you will get, there are loads and loads of resources, and it's all listed there for public view, and you can, right? Hopefully that will be, it's a lot, but you need to be able to navigate.
Thank you, sir. So there are a few more questions. In what ways can computational humanities contribute to the public engagement and democratization of the knowledge?
So one of the things that happens with the computational humanities principally is that you saw that a large part of the work that I sort of showcased, they were publicly available data, right? Uh, and so with this kind of uh, project sort of taking root, uh, the demand for publicly available data analysis uh, grows to a certain extent. And it's very important that universities and institutions uh, promote that growth of publicly available data. And one important aspect of computational humanities work is the way the results are shared. The results are are usually shared. Uh, it has There have to be papers because we are academics and we need our publication track record. But it is very important that this kind of work is public facing. And the visualization method of sharing work is something that actually allows for a wider engagement with, uh, with an audience so that the results of the research are easily viewable and understandable, comprehensible by a wider set of people. And usually, what happens in these kind of works is that you can see the Boyan tools or Palladio. These are tools which have been developed as part of uh, mm, digital humanities projects in various institutions of the world. And these are free to use, right? They are open source. You can download the source code and install it on your own machine and use it if you want to. You can modify and change, etc., etc. So it's public facing humanities, which tries to put the results of any inquiry, any research to a larger to a wider audience. And another thing is that it's hugely interdisciplinary, multimodal. So it tries not to exist in it actually cannot exist in silos. Um, Specific groups of people just talking to each other. They have to be wider communication, wider community of research, and so that's quite likely to change the face of humanities research.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again for your insightful answers that have deepened our understanding and have contributed significantly to the to our learning experience. Thank you, sir. And due to time constraint, we will not be able to answer all the questions. However, you can actually communicate the same in the feedback form. Thank you once again, sir. And Gratitude is a fairest blossom which springs from the soul by Henry Beecher. On that note, I invite Ms. Diana, Assistant Professor, Department of English, to deliver the word of thanks.
Gratitude bestows reverence, allowing us to encounter everyday epiphanies, those transcendent moments of awe that change forever how we experience life and the world. John Milton. Good evening, everyone. As we come to the end of today's enriching faculty development program on computational humanities, counting words and more, it is my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee. First and foremost, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to our resource person, Professor Arjun Ghosh, for the illuminating session on the intersection of computational methods and humanities. Your expertise and ability to simplify complex concepts have left us inspired and eager to explore these new avenues in our research and teaching. Your words have provided a fresh perspective and reaffirmed the importance of bridging the gap between technology and humanities and opened up new horizons to each one of us. Thank you, sir. We are deeply grateful to our head of department, Father Joshi Matthew, Dr. Loyola Thomas, our PG coordinator, and Professor Jerin Jose, our UG coordinator, for their relentless efforts and support in conducting this faculty development program. A big thank you to our organizing committee for the meticulous planning and smooth execution of this program. Without your hard work behind the scenes, this program would not have been possible. I also extend my sincere thanks to the technical team for ensuring the seamless execution of the session and for their constant support. Last but not least, a huge thank you to all the participants. Your enthusiasm, engagement, and willingness to learn have truly made this faculty development session memorable. We hope this program has sparked new ideas and will inspire your future endeavors in computational humanities. Once again, thank you all for being a part of this program. We look forward to continued collaboration and learning together in the future. Thank you. Have a great evening ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. And now I request everyone to turn on their camera for group. Thank you all. Thank you once again, sir, for the wonderful session. We look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Participants, the feedback link is now available in the chat box. Kindly fill the form. It is mandatory to fill the form each day. So the next session will be on 3rd of October at 3:30 p.m. by Professor Sachi Gopinath, Vice Chancellor, Kerala University of Digital Sciences, Innovation and Technology, on the topic Humanities in the AI First World. Kindly log in 10 minutes prior to the session. Thank you all for joining us for this fruitful session. Have a wonderful day. Sir.
Yeah.